It's been 2 weeks since I maxed my account, and the question I get the most is, Local, how does it feel knowing you get to max twice this year now that sailing's coming out? And let me tell you, it's definitely a unique feeling, one that not many people get to experience, maxing twice in this short span of a time. I think there are a few points that I want to cover today when it comes to my thoughts on sailing. First, we'll talk about just my experience with the skill and what I'm hoping that it will or won't be. Second, the idea of losing my max cape just as I start to get used to the utility that it provides. The prospect of having to take another skill from 1 to 99 so soon after finishing my journey. And third, and finally, the content that sailing is bringing into the game and how it might fit into a maxed player's routine. Now, I wanted to have some footage of sailing in the background here, but I actually don't have any footage from the beta or the alpha, and I even went to OSRS.world to look at a cached version of the game when sailing came out, but there really isn't a whole lot there. Some of the stuff is just rendering very buggy. So what you guys get to do is watch some footage of me attempting the Inferno, because if you were here last week, you know that I have a goal of getting my Infernal cape right now. Unfortunately, that week of time was not enough because I am so bad at the game, but I feel like I'm making good progress. I've got a new personal best of wave 60, and I'm definitely still working on that goal. So yeah, enjoy some footage of the Inferno while we talk about this, so let's get into it. As I mentioned, so many people are either making jokes about how sailing's about to drop or are just genuinely curious about my thoughts now that I'm maxed, and I think I definitely have mixed feelings, but I'm approaching it with a sense of cautious optimism. To start, I played the sailing alpha for about an hour or so, but didn't have time to take a look at the beta, though I heard that not much was different, so I've mostly skimmed over the sailing blogs up until this most recent one, which we'll get into a bit later. My initial thoughts when playing that alpha were not super optimistic. To start with the pros, sailing definitely felt old school in the best way, I think. I think a lot of people were also just worried that it would end up like the sailing mechanics we got in Bon Voyage, which, thank God that didn't happen, but the movement, which, a lot of people were very concerned about, feels very fluid. Now, of course, I'm not here to give an in-depth review of all the mechanics and workings of sailing, because there are plenty of videos already doing that, but all this is to say that I came out of that alpha just praying for some great content that makes the skill enjoyable. Thankfully, Jagex has a pretty good track record with updates, especially as of late, and I don't think there's any chance that they release another agility or fire making, right? It seems, based on all the blogs and such that I'm reading, that Jagex is really earnestly trying to release a skill that will not only be fun to train, but also continue to have meaning into the late game and post-99, similar to a skill like Slayer. Now, Slayer, of course, has its shortcomings almost entirely in the fact that it's the slowest skill in the game, but the level of engagement you get from it is what makes that slowness so enjoyable, in my opinion. If Jagex can create a balance between variety and training methods, reasons for me to keep doing it at higher levels, and decent XP rates, I personally think the skill will just ultimately be a success, right? I think my biggest fear with the skill is that it comes out and you get 70k XP an hour doing the fun stuff, and then 250k an hour doing some awful 2 or 3 tick method in the exact same spot. If the best XP method in the game happens to be some lame, unengaging tick manipulation technique, I'm gonna be pretty bummed. Now, I know we don't live in one, but in a perfect world, sailing comes out and I get to do a fun, engaging variety of methods that not only give me solid XP on the way, but maybe even potential to make some solid profit. Right now, the game is really lacking in some truly engaging and profitable skilling methods. The best you've got is the mega boring rune crafting, which is a 940k XP with the full raiment set if you're doing souls. Or you've got the insanely mind-numbing thieving, Vyers or Elves, which is anywhere from, 2.8 mil to 3.4 mil per hour, but it's just you're just clicking the exact same spot, so just not engaging, right? I mean, unless you count Slayer. Slayer has some fairly engaging methods in the late game, but to call Slayer skilling is kind of a stretch since it's pretty much just PVM, right? So if we could get an actual skilling skill that gives me 150k XP an hour with an engaging method that nets me 2 mil plus an hour, I'll be stoked. But of course, with that, I know not to keep my expectations too high. So all in all, I think that if the skill is engaging and not slow, I will enjoy it. I am personally just dying for a skill that I want to keep training past 99. On the flip side, if it's a mega slog of a skill, which I don't think it will be, I think myself and many others will be pretty disappointed. I've seen a good number of sailing rejectors use the argument like, sailing should be a minigame, not a skill, and with that I really think Foe in the Farmer said it best. All of the awful skills that you now have some way to enjoy are just minigames, right? Like Wintertod is a minigame, Guardians of the Rift, minigame, Hallowed Sepulchre, minigames. All of these like terrible skills that have slightly more enjoyable methods to do them have just been turned into minigames. So I really feel like that argument is like not very valid. But the issue, in my opinion, with wanting it to feel like a quote-unquote skill is that skills suck, man. Crafting, herblore, cooking, smithing, almost all of these skills are so boring and unengaging to train. You stand at a bang booth and click a few times, wait a few seconds, and repeat until you get 99 and never have to do it again. Is that really what you want from sailing? Not me. Not to mention that some of the things that we've seen, especially in this new blog, are looking much more dynamic than even a minigame or even the best skills that we have. So before we get into the blog and talk about some of the new content that's coming, I want to talk a little bit about, the idea of losing that max cape just as I got it, right? And having to take another skill from 1 to 99. And honestly, personally, I'm feeling very excited about it. I think while I was progressing towards max, I was very like, I want them to cancel sailing, I want them to delay sailing, whatever it takes so that I can just hold on to my max cape for this much longer. But I think that now that I am maxed, it's true, like I still have my goals, but having something more specific like that is just, it's fun to grind towards. And no, I'm not going to make an Iron Man yet, okay? Everybody keeps saying, oh, now it's time to make an Iron Man, but there's still a lot that I want to do on my account, and so I'm excited to have another thing to work towards. And I'm also very curious to see what it's like to grind a skill from 1 to 99, now that I know what it's like to actually max my account, right? Like I've said in the past, skills like cooking felt so slow to me, but now that I've done all the slow ones, I'm just curious to see like how quickly I can actually get, from that level 1 to level 99. I don't know, I'm excited for that experience again. So really quick, let's just review this blog to talk about some of the stuff that I feel like I'm pretty excited about. So yeah, first off, woodcutting, right? Adding these 4 new types of trees that'll all, tie into the sailing skill for different things like, fire making, which, again, useless skill. Fletching into new blowpipes, construction with building ships, right? I'm sure, these higher level rosewood logs will be fairly profitable, at least on launch, right? Being able to mine some new ores to help you smith cannonballs, I believe it is. Yeah, new facilities and upgrades for your ship, right? So on top of that, right, we've also got some new fishing methods, right? A whole bunch of new fish that all provide some different types of benefits, right? And this deep sea trawling and lantern fishing, I feel is going to tie in very well with the sailing skill to just provide a very engaging experience, and ways to train both skills, right? So with that, each of those fish, like I said, comes with different benefits, right? Like right off the rip, best in slot healing food that's not a potion. Halibut, this could straight up just replace Carambuan. Overhealing, right? So cheaper anglers, Lots of great stuff for early and mid-game. The new blowpipes too, this is going to be fantastic for, early to mid-game players, which, 84 fletching is a requirement for this, like, mid-level blowpipe, but it's going to be a lot easier than, simply just going straight to Zulrah for a lot of players, right? So I think this provides some great early game stuff. Stuff like Armadillo Brews, extended stamina potions, all of this kind of stuff just adds a lot of variety to the game, and of course you could make the argument that all of this stuff, like this herblore, the blowpipe fletching, this crafting and farming stuff could all be added to the game without sailing being involved. But personally, I think what makes a skill enjoyable in this sense is the fact that we're going to have the ability to have whole new, training and gameplay loops for all of these other skills, right? It doesn't seem like any of them are going to be like earth-shattering, meta-changing things, but being able to train your sailing while going out and doing all of these new and more engaging methods, I think is just going to be a net positive, really. Construction, right? Construction's going to be able to tie into the, building your ships and making nicer ships. Personally, I feel like I'm pretty excited to make a nice looking ship. I don't know. The one thing I think like this game is kind of lacking in is certain types of customization. And I don't want to I don't want you to take this in the wrong way and say, oh, he's asking for like skins for his Bandos armor. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like the play around house. Like your house is kind of supposed to be your way to customize something to make it your own, right? And I think that the play around house aspect, there's not really a lot of ways to customize it to really make it your own, right? Because there's just an efficient way to do it. And maybe that'll end up continuing to be the case with sailing as well, but I think if you can, if you're able to customize your ship and make it look like your own unique thing, that it will, I think myself and other people will find a lot of fun in that. Of course, you've got thieving. So really, all in all, there are a whole ton of new skills that will be able to tie directly into sailing that I think are going to make the skill not just like a one and done kind of thing, right? Like if you want to do any of these thieving methods, farming methods, crafting, fletching methods, mining, wood cutting, if you want to do all of these methods, you're going to want to be leveling your sailing, right? Now, of course, we still don't really know how the leveling is going to work within the game, but, that kind of remains to be seen. But so far, I don't know, what I'm seeing, it seems pretty promising. Alright, well, we're getting a little long-winded here, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. In conclusion, as somebody who just maxed their account, I actually am pretty excited for sailing. Everything that Jagex is putting out seems very promising, and it looks like it's going to be engaging and will add a lot to the game, really. So, Jagex, great work. I look forward to trying some more betas, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more as we get closer to that. You guys have a good weekend.